Imagine it, you're in the final days of pregnancy, feeling the excitement and the overwhelming anticipation of becoming a mother. Your world should be filled with love, support, and joy as you prepare to welcome a new life into the world. But then, the unimaginable happens.
The very person you trusted to be by your side, your partner, your husband, leave you stranded in the most vulnerable moment of your life.
This is the story of Lisa, a woman who believed her marriage was secure, only to have it shattered in the most heart-wrenching way imaginable. What should have been a beautiful, life-changing experience became a nightmare, all because of one thoughtless decision after another. A betrayal that went far beyond words. This is Lisa's story, a journey from heartbreak to strength, from loneliness to liberation. Tune in to Secret Affairs Stories for more tales of betrayal, heartbreak, and resilience. This is a story you won't forget. It was the third trimester. The days were long, and the nights felt endless, but I was also filled with this strange mix of anticipation, excitement, and overwhelming exhaustion. I could feel my baby kicking inside me, a constant reminder of the new life I was about to bring into the world. The dreams I had about becoming a mother, about holding my child for the first time, made me feel like I was on the edge of something beautiful, something life-changing. But reality has a way of knocking you back to earth when you least expect it. What should have been a time of joy, a moment I would cherish forever, was becoming tainted by the cold, indifferent behavior of my husband, David. David worked a corporate job, and every weekend, without fail, he would disappear to his parents' house. Their home was close by, and the bond he shared with them was undeniable. Yet, for all the affection he showed them, there was none left for me.
You was on my own.
I had accepted this about our marriage, but as I entered my third trimester, I started to realize the depth of the isolation I felt. I had to handle everything on my own: cooking, cleaning, shopping, preparing for the baby. My days were spent running errands, managing the household, and keeping up with my little blog where I documented everything from the flowers blooming in my garden to my latest meal. It was my only escape, my source of joy. Then came the night that would change everything. I was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, when I heard the door open. David had arrived home. He tossed his jacket and bag carelessly onto the sofa, like it was nothing. I greeted him, trying to keep things light. "Welcome back. I made hamburgers for dinner." He didn't respond. Instead, he headed straight for the bathroom, leaving me standing there, wondering just how long I had been invisible to him. 3 years of marriage, and I had long ago stopped expecting affection or support from him. It had been that way for as long as I could remember, and I had learned to resign myself to it. Maybe I had been fooling myself, thinking that things would get better. Maybe I thought once the baby arrived, he would step up. But that night, something snapped inside me. When David returned from his shower, still in his pajamas, I handed him a drink, hoping for a moment of connection. Instead, his first words were, "Where's the beer?" I froze. I had forgotten to buy it, but it wasn't like I had the energy or time to run out and get it. Yet, his response was sharp, filled with entitlement. "You forgot to buy it. It's your job to fix that mistake." I stood there, my hand resting on my swollen belly, feeling the weight of his words. He didn't care. Not about me. Not about the baby. It was as if I was nothing but an extension of his convenience. His needs, his wants, his comfort came first. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I couldn't let him see me break down. Instead, I grabbed my coat and trudged out into the cold night to buy him the beer he so desperately needed.
On the way back, he ran into Sarah, my neighbor.
She greeted me cheerfully, her voice a welcome relief to the weight of the argument that still lingered in my chest. I briefly told her about the fight, how David was demanding beer when I had barely the energy to keep my eyes open. She listened, her eyes full of sympathy, and for a brief moment, I felt a connection. When I returned home, David was sprawled out on the couch, his beer in hand, still not bothering to clean up after dinner. He barely looked at me when he muttered, "What took you so long?" His indifference stung, but I was too tired to argue. I handed him the beer in silence and went about cleaning up, feeling the resentment build up with each dish I scrubbed. The next morning, David acted as though nothing had happened. He greeted me with his usual morning indifference, as if the night before had been forgotten. But I couldn't forget. I couldn't erase his words from my mind. The wound was too fresh. Days passed, and the strain in our relationship grew harder to ignore. It was supposed to be one of the happiest times of my life, but instead, I felt trapped in a marriage that wasn't even a partnership. I was alone. And that loneliness only deepened when David suggested we go on a family trip, one that, once again, involved his parents. I couldn't believe it. I was days away from giving birth. How could he possibly think that a trip was a good idea? How could he be so inconsiderate? When I voiced my concerns, he brushed them off as if they were nothing. You're just being dramatic, he said.
You're nautique, you're prégnant.
My parents want us to go. It's settled. He didn't care. His desires, his comfort, his needs, all of those came first. I had become a mere afterthought. His words, so casual and dismissive, stung more than I could ever say. The day of the trip arrived, and I was packing my things, still trying to find a way out of this absurd situation. But then, something happened. I felt a warmth spreading down my legs, a clear sign that my water had broken. I turned to David, panic rising in my chest. David, my water broke. We need to go to the hospital. Now. He paused, looked at me, and then shockingly said, just get out of the car.
You're making a mess.
I'll clean it up. I was speechless. In that moment, I realized just how little I meant to him. He pulled me out of the car, left me alone in the parking lot, and drove away. I felt abandoned. Helpless. But then, a miracle happened. Sarah showed up, right on time, just when I needed her most. She offered me comfort and support, staying by my side through the long hours of labor, holding my hand when the pain became unbearable. She was the lifeline I didn't know I needed. Eventually, the sound I had been waiting for, the cry of my baby, filled the room. It was the most beautiful sound in the world, and in that moment, I knew I had done the right thing. I had survived. My baby was here, and no one could take that from me. My parents arrived at the hospital soon after, offering warmth and reassurance. I ignored David's calls. He didn't deserve to be a part of this moment. It was about me and my baby now, and nothing else mattered. As the days went on, the news of David's betrayal spread through the community. Sarah, always quiet and composed, had shared my story with others, and soon everyone knew. David's reputation crumbled, and I felt a strange sense of justice. He had shown me nothing but indifference, and now, he was facing the consequences. But amid the chaos, something unexpected happened. My family and I were stronger than ever. I had my baby, and we were going to be okay. I filed for divorce. The man who had betrayed me had no place in my life. It wasn't easy, but as I looked at my baby, I knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter filled with hope, love, and the promise of a fresh start. And so, as the dust settled, I made a vow to myself. I would never again let anyone diminish my worth. Not David. Not anyone. I was stronger than I had ever realized, and with my baby by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next. As I sat there, holding my newborn in my arms, the hospital room felt strangely peaceful. The chaos and heartache of the past weeks had finally settled into the quiet rhythm of motherhood. My baby's tiny fingers curled around mine, and in that moment, I knew everything I had endured had been for something far greater than I could have ever imagined. This was my fresh start, my second chance at life. But it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the future. The life that lay ahead for my child, a life I would protect fiercely. The days of tolerating David's neglect and indifference were over. I realized now that I had been stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. The betrayal, the hurt, the isolation, it all led to this defining moment of empowerment. As I reflected on how far I had come, a wave of gratitude washed over me. I had been lucky to have Sarah by my side when I needed her most. If it weren't for her, I would have been completely alone, and who knows what could have happened. She had been my rock, my support system when I had none. And as I looked at my baby, the pain of the past seemed to fade just a little more. The days following my hospital stay were filled with a mixture of emotions. My parents continued to be my strength, offering unconditional support and encouragement. They respected my decision to move on from David. The divorce papers had been filed, and I knew that walking away was the right choice, even though the road ahead would be difficult. But with the love of my baby and the unwavering support of my family, I felt ready to face anything. Then, something I never expected happened. My story began to spread. What I had endured, the betrayal, the abandonment, and my decision to stand up for myself, became something that resonated with others. Friends, acquaintances, and even strangers reached out to me, sharing their own experiences of betrayal, heartbreak, and survival. It was overwhelming, but also incredibly humbling. Soon, my story found its way to social media, where it caught the attention of people from all walks of life. The video of my husband's heartless actions, shared by Sarah, went viral. David's reputation was shattered, and he was left to pick up the pieces of the life he had destroyed. I had no idea the level of impact my story would have, but as I read the supportive messages flooding in, I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice. Yet, despite the public fallout, I was at peace. I had made the decision to reclaim my life, to break free from the shackles of a marriage that was built on neglect and betrayal. The judgment from others didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I was free. My baby and I had a bright future ahead of us, one that was not tainted by David's actions. And I promised myself that I would never again let anyone make me feel small or unworthy. As I moved forward, one of the most important things I realized was that life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. I didn't know what would come next, but I was no longer afraid. I had learned that even in the darkest moments, there is always a way to rebuild, to grow stronger, and to find a way to thrive. This story, my journey from heartbreak to strength, is just one of many. If you've ever felt lost, if you've ever felt like you were stuck in a situation with no way out, know that you are not alone. Sometimes, the hardest decisions are the ones that lead us to our true selves. At Secret Affairs Stories, we bring you more stories of resilience, strength, and survival. If you found inspiration in my journey, share this with others who may need to hear it. There's power in storytelling, in sharing our truths, and in finding connection. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and join the community of listeners who are on their own paths to healing and empowerment. Remember, no matter what life throws at you, you have the power to take control of your story. Stay strong, stay empowered, and keep moving forward. Subscribe to Secret Affairs Stories now. Your story is waiting to be told.